I was in, I want to say 5th grade, and I saw this picture of Leonardo da Vinci with the long hair when he was really old in one of my books. And I was doing math at the time, so I flipped my math page over and I just started drawing that picture of him. And eventually my teacher came over and I was like, ugh! And hurried and flipped it back over. She said, let me see that. And she made me turn it over, and she said, that's really good. You need to keep doing that. And so that was that first little pat on the back that made me think, oh, maybe I'm good at this. I don't know. That started it. And then my grandmother was also painting. She was taking workshops and learning how to use a palette knife. You know, this was in the 70s, and there was a lot of palette knife painting going on. And so she started bringing, when she'd come and visit, she'd bring her paints and we would paint together. And so when I got to junior high and they started introducing oil paint and things like that, I already knew about all that stuff. I'd already done a lot of painting on my own. And so for me, that was just a real comfort zone. It's one of those things, it's like they say about pornography. I know it when I see it. It's the same way with great paintings. They just knock your socks off. I think the first time I ever really felt that way about a painting was I was about 18, and we went to the museum, the Art Institute of Chicago. And there's a painting there called the Song of the Lark, I think it's called. And it's just a girl out in the fields with the sunrise coming from behind her. And, you know, just talking about it, I get chills because of how I felt all those years ago when I saw it for the first time, and I realized that you could capture sunlight in paint. I didn't, you know, I'd never, you couldn't get that from books, looking at whoever's paintings in books, but to capture what felt like sunlight raking across an open field and through her hair. And I just was mesmerized by that. I thought, that's what I want to do. And interestingly, Bill Murray said that he was near suicidal, walked into the Art Institute of Chicago, saw that painting, and it changed his entire life. And so that's the power of art. It changed that painting changed my life. It changed Bill Murray's life. You know it when you see it. It just speaks to you in a way that it can't be denied. There are shortcuts to doing that type of thing. Watercolor has a lot of little shortcuts. You can throw salt on something to make it look like, you know, after you've put a wash on, you throw salt on it, and all of a sudden you've got snow coming down out of the sky. And so there are little tricks and shortcuts and things like that. And you see guys at the fair that do these paintings and whip them out in 20 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And there's a lot of tricks like that. To me, it was just about trial and error. You know, I wanted to figure out how to do that. And I'm looking at it, and I'm saying, okay, how do I mix a color so it looks like that? Because this area is lighter than this area. It's also cooler or warmer than that. And so I think that type of work takes longer to get results, but the results are longer lasting. You know, there's John Ruskin, who was an art critic in France at the turn of the century, 150 years ago or whatever. He talked about it from the perspective of, it's really fun to walk down the street and stumble on somebody that's juggling, and they're juggling and they're throwing things, throwing balls around, and it's really, really awesome for about 20 minutes. And then it's kind of boring and it's time to keep walking down the road. Well, that type of trickiness in art really can capture your eye for a short period of time, but it's not going to hold your soul for very long. And so when somebody has worked, you know, their 10,000 hours towards their craft, then they start to find the things that resonate at a deeper level. You can't really put your finger on why necessarily. The why is way deeper because it comes from somebody's hard work and their genius and when I say genius, not talent necessarily, just that they were focused on doing something really difficult for a long period of time that then shows up in their work. And to me, that's genius, having the fortitude to keep working at something even when a lot of what you do is worthless. There's a large difference between what a place looks like and what a place makes you feel when you're there. And so to capture just what it looks like is not that difficult. You know, you can take a photo and you have it there. Now you can paint that photo or a replication of that photo, and you've got what would be kind of a rendering of that place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you've captured the feeling that you had when you were there. And so trying to capture the feeling of a space often has a lot to do with eliminating things rather than putting everything in. So the camera captures everything, and it captures everything at the same focus and the same. So what an artist quite often does is eliminate all of the extraneous things that don't add up to that sense of feeling, that sense of place. Because you can get bogged down in that, you can get caught in, it's almost like a spider web of specifics that you want to avoid as an artist, because then it's more about the powerful nature of the place versus all the specifics of that place. There's so much in those national parks that grab your attention. So I tried to find a view that kind of was more singular, whereas so this painting mostly is about this monolith here, secondarily about this one, and then tertiary, you know, the things around. But I tried to find and compose it in such a way that felt a little more contemporary to me. There's very traditional paintings of Zion that I love. They're spectacular. I've been trying to work some different angles and different things. There's very traditional, you know, you could do the river wandering up to these monoliths and things like that, and it's been done a lot. I just wanted to find something that worked a little in a more contemporary vein, and this to me did the way it's composed, and but also the way I've kind of eliminated a lot of the specifics of this foreground and of this side hill here. They're there, but they're there in very raw kind of way. A great way to look at doing something like that, and the reason why artists, when they're painting en plein air, squint, is because if you stare at one thing for a while, everything else blurs away. And so if you're focused on that one thing, you still see all that other stuff, but you don't see it in its full detail.
Many of the works in streaming are still available. Please visit us in person or at www.ajfinearts.net.